You, me, some are fancy on the outside. Some are fancy on the inside. Everybody's fancy. Everybody's fine. Your body's fancy, and so is mine. Boys are boys from the beginning. Girls are girls right from the start. Everybody's fancy. Everybody's fine. Your body's fancy, and so is mine. Only girls can be the mummies. Only boys can grow up and be the daddies. Yes, sir. Everybody's fancy. Everybody's fine. Your body's fancy, and so is mine. I think you're a special person. And I like your ins and outsides. Everybody's fancy. Everybody's fine. Your body's fancy, and so is mine. Can you sing that with me? Sure. Sing songs with me whenever.
This episode is brought to you by Mecca Books, your source for traditional Islamic knowledge. It's where seekers of knowledge go to buy their books. Go directly to Mecca Books because they have a massive catalog that covers just about every topic from fiqh, aqidah, hadith, tasawwuf, and everything else in between. You can go to meccabooks.com/TMM and use the code TMM for a 10% discount.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Madam Luke's. My name is Sim. Along with me are my co-hosts,
Mr. Rogers, assalamu alaikum.
Shaykh Hammer, Mort.
Assalamu alaikum. Hello.
Second week in a row, we got the Janwaar himself, Shak.
Shag Diesel.
Shak Diesel.
Al-Haywan, as they call him in some regions, the animal.
Yes, sir.
How's everyone doing? Assalamu alaikum. Please help us out on patreon.com/the Madam Luke's. And as you guys join through to the stream, please make sure to click on the old like button and subscribe. And make sure you comment on the comment section.
Yes, sir.
Your comments and thoughts related to the show.
Yeah. Sim will read those. I will never read those. I never read comments, but you can do that.
Sheikh, what's your thoughts related to Mr. Rogers?
I
did he trigger you?
To be honest with you, I'm glad you left that as a surprise. That made me really happy.
Oh, yeah?
Especially the content of which he spoke.
I gotta give Megan credit for that.
That was the idea.
Yeah,
that was really cool. That was really unexpected. And a very positive message as always from Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
Boys will be boys.
They will be.
Girls will be girls.
From the start.
Controversial statements these days. So
Yeah. He's speaking facts.
yeah.
Objective truth he's speaking in. But anyways, yeah, thank you for that. That was a little refreshing. We were all high-fiving while that was going on. Anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you guys doing anything special this weekend?
No. Are you?
No midnight qiyam?
No minute. Yeah,
Okay.
for me. Oh, actually, I might be traveling. But anyways, episode is after
traveling.
Solidify. It's 18 hours.
Just
Yeah.
18 hours.
Yeah, just 18 hours.
It sounds kind of dodgy.
Yeah. It's pretty...
Especially since I've been watching the Dahmer series.
Don't tell me about that. I want to watch that.
Yeah, but your disappearances.
Is it really like dark and...
Oh, yeah, it's very dark. Reminds me of
Right.
you a little bit, but yeah, it's very dark.
Because I like eating steaks.
You can't watch with the kids.
No, I'm not going to watch it with
Yeah.
my kids. Bro.
A lot of Qawm al-Huruf stuff.
Yeah,
Qawm
that's a-
al-Huruf? Who's that?
So, you know what Huruf are?
Huruf and Maqam, right?
Yeah, but what does Huruf mean?
It's
Don't
like
test him on air, bro.
No, I'm just saying, I mean letters,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
letters.
So Qawm al-Huruf, people of the letters. It's an
People of-
acronym for, you know,
why are there people of letters? Oh,
No, he means postman.
no, we tell them Qawm al-Lut.
Yeah, we call him Komal.
yeah, but I don't say Qawm al-Lut because I mean, I think it's, they're catching on to that now.
Yeah.
Qawm al-Lut?
Yeah, the common haruf is catching on the common loop.
Oh man,
Oh, I thought you were gonna have like a.
this is really complicated, man.
The whole world is complicated. They don't even know what gender they are. Of course it can be complicated.
Yeah. If you take that away, bro.
Shaq,
But
there's a lot of people after our past episode. They want to know whether you dye your stripes with black.
No, it's natural.
It's all natural, huh?
Mashallah,
You know?
that's dope, dude.
Bro, I'm waiting to get there, bro. I still got one little
Yeah,
racing
that's how it
stripe.
started. It
I
started
got,
like
I
that.
got like one racing stripe right here,
Yeah.
bro. And I feel like, why is it only this way? My nephews were asking, right? And I'm like, it's because I took my racing stripe. I'm
But
ready to
can't
go.
It's like not in the center though, so you should.
Yeah, I know. It's like,
No, you shouldn't do anything. Keep it the way it is, bro.
no, by the way, listen. I will never dye my beard.
Hell no.
Ever. These grays are work, baby.
Yeah.
That's my stripes right there.
Wisdom. It's wisdom.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like I'm proud to wear my stripes.
But Shaq has the coolest stripes.
Yeah.
I've ever seen.
Yeah, if you have stripes like that, I wouldn't change that.
Oh, are you saying you changed this one? Are you saying you would change how Allah made me?
Listen,
Stuck for lush here.
Bro, stop acting like
That's
a
a good
cold
start,
roof,
though.
right?
I was sick.
You see, the man says it himself.
No, I know it does.
It's
Mine
kind of like
started
that robe.
right in the middle, and then
There
these
you go.
guys, and then this.
There you go.
I bald weird too.
Anyways, what we got on the menu for today, brothers?
Hey, Shaq, did you ever use any kind of lotions like minoxidil and stuff to get your hair or your beard like in good condition?
No.
A lot of the brothers these days, when like for example myself, like I got like a spot. Actually, this is a good way for
Oh, yeah.
the listeners to know about it because I got like a spot right here on
Yeah.
my cheek. It doesn't grow here beard. One of my uncles once long time ago, he doesn't watch the show, so I can make fun of him. But
It's still me, man.
he complained to my mom saying that, hey, your son, he's making a fashion statement by not growing hair
Oh,
here.
snap.
I'm like, dude, like I can't grow hair here, mom.
How long has that been?
So like
Since I've
forever.
learned.
So what I did was I started putting Rogaine on.
Is it
like
working?
Minoxidil, and it's getting little peach fuzz.
So let's rewind this. Wait a minute. Our previous a guy who's going to be a co-host with us, another one,
yeah.
Humam, he used to have the same problem where he's a little bit younger and he had no hair on the side. It was like just the long goatee, right? And he got fed up of it. Like, I can't just wait for it to grow. So he put like minoxidil on his sides, like here, and like within I think a couple of months, it just grew. And apparently the kind of hair that it is, you don't have to keep putting it on and it won't fall out. It's not the
Is
hair
that
you have.
Rogaine? Minoxidil's Rogaine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So you can put
Activate
Rogaine
face
on your face, and then but apparently the hair that you have here, it's not like the hair on your head. So once you put it on, once it grows, once it buds out, it's not going to stop growing.
Really?
So he came out full. Like I swear, it was like a month later.
Wow.
But I mean, for a while, he had like bushy ass eyebrows, and like, I mean, his hand had hair on it, bro.
Oh, is that what
Yeah, yeah. He told us
He
last
went
time.
full on caveman.
Yeah, like
Is it
caveman.
So I told him
pill
about
or
my
is it-
No,
problem.
it's an oil.
Yeah, so you got it everywhere by accident?
No, what happens when you put it on your hands to rub it on your beard?
Oh, God.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, how do you get his eyebrows then?
I don't know how. Bro.
Yeah, what happened to what
No,
happened?
because he was going like this, and naturally, it's a general area, right? It's gonna,
I don't know.
yeah, it's gonna. So it's like this: when you pop a pill, right? Like your hair, it's gonna make it grow here, right? Generally speaking, but you don't like even you rub it on, right? It's a general area. You have to get every single spot. So likewise, it got his face. It went up here.
Wow.
Yeah. So
sometimes-
what I started doing was someone in the chat put derma rollers work as well too, and they
Little
do.
micropins, right?
So what I do is I roll the derma roller right here, and then I put the Rogaine on, and yeah.
You should just make sure it's not fungus.
working.
I see it working.
Because this was completely flat, like there was nothing here.
By the way, I've never seen you with a stubble before.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope.
So well, no, I've had stubble before, but there was a large, like $50 size
Like a
hole
patch.
here.
I got you.
So it's coming through.
Sometimes that happens when you have a fungus spot too. It's called Barbara tinea or something like that.
Oh.
And yeah, and so and you lose a little like a smooth spot of hair. I had in my head one time in the back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and no, and some people have that from a lot of stress too.
So all I know is that I used to have my beard like much longer. You know, remember that, right? But I remember I'd walk around and dudes with white guys. For some reason nowadays, white guys are obsessed with beards. They stop me and ask me, "Hey, bro, love your beard." I'm like, "All right." What kind of oils do you use? I'm like, 0. You know. And they're like, "How do you grow it that long?" How many years? I'm like, "I don't know, man." It
What
took me
club
like
you been
6
hanging out with, bro?
No, I'm walking. No,
Nobody asked us.
this was in Target. Not even like I hang out with the guy. I'm walking by, getting my groceries. And he just stopped me about my beard.
Huh.
And he's like, "Any tips?" I'm like, "Yeah, don't shave your beard." You know what I mean? Just don't shave.
Wait. Do those oils work though? Like the
No,
beard
so-
oils?
Thicken
I do.
the
I put
shea butter and all
wax.
that.
I have a whole regimen.
So I'll be.
You do?
Yeah.
So which oil
Oh,
works
really?
but works best?
I don't know. I mean, I've tried a bunch. I have right now. I'm on a product called Zeus. I use their beard wash, their beard conditioner, and then they have like this.
They come in the package with 5 in one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So-
And they
it
make
comes
the
with a wax
difference.
and oil, and there's a wax and oil, and you know, depending on the weather, sometimes.
So
you
it makes a
use the wax,
difference
maybe you use the oil.
in styling it, right? Not growing it, right?
No, just to keep it down.
Yeah.
My thing will be crap if I don't blow dry.
Yeah,
it,
so
do all that
I'm
stuff
lucky
to it.
in that
You
way.
do blow drying and stuff too?
I gotta blow dry.
Yeah, me too. I have to that. I'm
That's what happens to mine, Shaq.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, blow dry
It,
straight.
it all like curls up.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
During my selfie days, I tried to grow a beard really long, but it just all curled
Yeah.
up, bro.
Yeah.
It just became curly. Even
That's
just,
cute. That's very cute.
nothing happened.
yeah. So
And no one thought I was religious, and I felt sad.
yeah. I have to use a blow dryer. My regime is because I just put shampoo on it, right, and then come out and I just blow dry it straight. And
Does
I'm
it make
good
your
to
hair
go.
really hard though?
No. It actually
No,
keeps it
soft.
soft. It actually makes it softer. You
Well,
can
yours
tangles
naturally like
out.
that?
Yeah, I gotta start blow drying.
No,
Yeah,
dude,
that's sick, bro.
he goes like this constantly, bro. He's like
Yeah.
this.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. I mean, so you have to groom it. No, nothing wrong with it, but I'm
But I
saying,
brush it like 6-7 times a day.
yeah. So once I brush it like this, I dry it like this, it stays like this. If you
Yeah.
dry, that's the benefit of drying your hair. It doesn't come off. It just go if you just go straight down
When
like
it's
dry
like,
it.
when it gets like wet, or if it gets like,
Yeah.
you know.
Or the wind just goes. I mean,
then
I,
it's all curly.
yeah.
and messy.
When my beard was longer than that, like I end up looking like ZZ Top sometimes because they just split down the middle.
Can you tell who ZZ Top is?
It's a rock band from the '80s, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I
They
don't
look like biker guys.
Remember the
Oh.
two
They're
brothers that
all
had like
fat.
yeah. Anyways, point being is the beard, the wind like splits your beard in half.
Yeah.
You end up getting two handlebars.
Yeah, man. Some people.
But I had this bigger problem though. When I grow my beard, if I don't do my sides right, it'll grow. You know how it comes on here for
Yeah.
me? It'll grow the same length sideways.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
wow.
So it'll come up like this, like a
Yeah,
fan.
you got the Yemeni hair going
Oh,
on.
yeah. Remember one of his selfie pictures we shared with the listeners once?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
he
thought
had-
that was Ahmed bin Ali al-Ajami, bro. I was
But,
like, is that Ajami,
but I'm
bro?
saying it would be like it would just come. I mean, I'm talking about literally like this length
Yeah.
down to on both sides.
Wow.
So it's like a fan. I could just
That's
like fan
kinda
you
dope,
like this,
dude.
bro.
That's kind of dope.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But anyways, alhamdulillah, I have a beard. I mean, I feel for the brothers that can't grow one. I know they want to, because I feel for them. They probably feel
Oh.
like there's some deficiency in them, but there's not. You know, it is what it is.
Someone throwing some shade said, "Dang, metrosexual gender identity talk." Dang. I think that brother doesn't have a beard. He must be upset.
No, he's probably talking about Metro Mobile or something.
No, he's talking about his styling is metrosexual. But just to be clear, the Prophet ﷺ would get upset as Sahaba if his beard was unkept. He said, "Don't you have combs?" He would remind them.
Subhanallah. Yes, sir.
So we're following the Sunnah, baby.
Yeah.
Did
Mock
they-
us, you're mocking the Sunnah.
Forget the
what
labels.
did they use as combs during the Prophet's time?
They had combs.
You remember like in Little Mermaid they used forks.
Watch it.
By the way, there's
They
a black,
use-
there's
yo,
a
you
black
wanna
little,
know?
there's a black Little Mermaid now. Are you guys upset?
Wait, you want to know? Oh wait, why would I be upset? I'm not racist.
I just want to know. People are saying that everyone's upset about Black Little Mermaid, and I'm
No,
trying to find out who's
okay,
upset.
okay, wait,
who's
wait.
actually upset about this? No
Wait,
one's
since
upset.
let me talk about this. Actually, I'm not upset, but I think it's ridiculous.
I think it's trying too hard.
Yeah, what I'm saying is like, look, there are certain classics. Like, let's be honest. The only reason why they're making it redoing it with a black woman is because they're trying to fit into the times, right? Now that's where I have a problem. If you're going to, what are you going to go do? And are you going to go back and rewrite every single thing and put a black character in
They
it?
did with Spider-Man.
No, I think if you want to have inclusion, I'm all for that, right? But why not make a new character and then make a new story and make it more relatable? Because I know for damn sure the Little Mermaid ain't relatable to most urban kids out there, anyways, right?
They're not
let's-
swimming. No
Wait,
urban kids
did they
swimming.
replace the Little Mermaid with the black lady, or they're just saying there's another Little Mermaid and she's black? Because
No,
the whole
this
thing-
is the
whole
real
race of
original.
mermaids.
It's the same one. They give her the red hair and everything to this black girl.
I wonder what they made Sebastian.
See? He's laughing at it.
They didn't give her red hair.
What is,
That's messed up. They didn't give her red hair. They gave her red hair?
yeah, I think she's still got red hair. Though.
How? That's not
We
right.
demand. You know what?
Hey, don't ask questions. Don't try to make
Yeah,
jokes.
that's incriminating. But listen, we demand.
That's
Black
hijab-
people can
hurtful.
grow orange hair, bro.
Listen,
Impossible.
listen,
That's hurtful.
listen, guys.
Now you have blue eyes.
Transphobic.
Yeah.
Your words are violence.
We demand a hijabi mermaid now.
Damn, yeah. But the
We
same
demand it.
What's the
costume.
same?
That's the same
In
costume.
a
That's keeping up the times though, because I've seen that outside. I've seen
in a
that.
burkini. That's what we demand.
No burkini.
Oh, just let it go.
That's like
Let
I
it
said,
flow, baby.
You said it has to be relatable to the times, right?
That's true.
There you go.
That's
There
true.
you go.
And the hijab has to be like halfway now.
Did you guys hear about?
Convertible.
Mickey Mouse?
Did you guys hear about this new movie called The Woman King?
Yes,
I haven't
I was just
seen
reading
it.
about it today.
So I actually read the true story about it, and
Yeah.
it's about some tribe of
Yeah.
women who fight against some colonizers, and they completely get slaughtered. Like, they,
I had they won for a while.
yeah, maybe I think they win for a little bit, but then they get completely slaughtered.
expect?
But this movie's like a retelling of it, which is completely
Oh,
like
it's
a
all
fake,
the Wakanda actors in it, right?
like a
Is that the
fake
one?
story about
What?
The Wakanda actors? A lot of the actors from Wakanda?
I don't know.
Just because they're black? No, they're just black actors.
Okay.
No, so
Wakanda's a
so
fake place, yeah.
yeah.
Movie, I'm talking about the movie.
Yeah, so Amir, we know you spent a lot of time in Egypt. You were born and raised there. You came to America
I was
late. We
born
understand
and
that.
raised there.
So let me explain how American Hollywood works.
Oh,
Okay.
please.
Okay.
Yes.
So they take a fictitious, an event in history where the African tribe was rebelling against its colonizers, and they actually end up losing the fight and getting slaughtered. But because Hollywood wants to prop up a narrative and an idea, they thought to make it a story where this woman king, which is true, there was one fighter, she ends up conquering over everything, and then she leads her people to freedom. Right? Totally opposite of what happens.
But really, that you've read the actual history about this? Because I haven't read the history.
Well,
of this
I
story.
touched on a little bit. I didn't read all of it, so he probably knows more about it.
But
Yeah,
have
well,
you? But is the
basically-
movie line seriously that she continuously wins? I mean, in the end, she wins in the movie, or
From what I know, or what people told me, is that they end up winning and they end up becoming victorious. It's the same thing that like the liberals do with like everything that they want to align with their story. Like, for example, the pro LGBT stuff, right? So they make Alexander the Great and his retelling of his stories where he's homosexual. They've like all kinds of different things that suit their agenda and how they want the public to perceive historical events with complete false storytelling, and there's good ways to do it, like the way Quentin Tarantino does it, where he changed the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the murders that happened with the Manson family, how they came and killed a bunch of actors and actresses, and he made it so that they got shut down and that the killings never took place, or were not to the extent that they did in real life. So like there's a cool way that Tarantino does it, but then there's the way that the woke crowd does it, where they just shove this false narrative, completely retelling of history down everyone's throat, saying, "Oh yeah, this African tribe completely destroyed."
So
the
I'll give you an
colonizers," and it's
example.
just not
Like
true.
for example, in the new Coming to America, right? The whole plot is about how Eddie Murphy is a coward and can't do anything. So his daughters have to save his son. That are basically they're carrying the kingdom. It's the whole idea of all. Like for example, they're trying to push feminism now, right? And that everyone's equal. So in a lot of movies, you'll always see that it's the man that's dumb and stupid, and then there'll be always this tough, bad woman who comes in and she can kick everyone's butt, right? She's a martial arts expert, and she's like a tough lady. That whole, it's totally opposite in real life. Like in real life, you'd never see that, right?
Yeah.
Never at all. Like some,
movies are fantasy.
right? And so, but they're pushing their narrative through the fantasy,
Yeah.
right? And then they're trying to normalize this idea that women can be badasses too. Women are martial arts experts too. They can lead the men. All these men are stupid. It takes a wise woman.
Yeah,
to
but again, it's just a movie.
it's just a movie, exactly. It's not reality, and that's why.
I was going to tell them the same thing. I mean, if we're taking history from movies, then we're pretty. We're pretty screwed.
The interesting thing is, look, as an accumulation of so much media and movies occurred, there's so many concepts that are built in children and people and adults.
Of course, yeah.
That their moral compass becomes what the general culture around them. That's why it's really dangerous, man.
Yeah.
But in reality, movies are just movies.
Yeah.
Anyone who takes history lessons from a movie is stupid.
No, but it's not like what's so frustrating. It's not like there's good like strong female characters in movies. Like for example, if you saw the last Mad Max movie that Fury Road, she was a strong like female actress who was kicking butt and doing all kinds of awesome stuff. But then there's like ridiculous levels of the female. Like for example, there's the new Lord of the Rings show,
Yeah.
right? It's
forgot
called
the name.
Rings of Power.
Yeah.
And in one of the first episodes, the main character, the female, she just destroys this monster that is completely killing every one of her army soldiers and stuff. And it's not just that it's that story, right? It's like repeated throughout every single story that's not in like Netflix, and like you're not giving women any kind of something to
And-
really aspire to.
Correct.
You're giving them a fictional thing that they can never
aspire to, right.
never become.
Yeah.
You're telling them that their strength is in physical power and might, and which they can never ever hope to attain
Ever. Right. And you know what the funny thing is? That here's the thing too, is that it's not just that they're propping up a female character. I have no problem with that, right? I mean, females are part of our world, right? We love women. But they're doing it at the expense of men, because all the men have to be subservient to the woman in the thing, right? And it's just not that way in reality, in real life. Like whenever, look at any movie you see now, right? Go to any battle scene, whether it's a military movie, whether it's some superhero movie, whether it's some, mystery. It's always a woman who has to come in and save the day. And then the men are too stupid or too weak to figure it out, right? Yeah. And it's like they're pushing this narrative. So I don't mind having a female character or a female lead or strong female personality, but why at the expense of men?
No, even if it's not at the expense of anyone, bro. Like, you're giving them false hope. You're telling them that their strength lies in physical strength, that something that they can never hope to.
A lot of people don't talk about that.
They could never hope to achieve that.
Yeah.
And they think that, we're feeling threatened by the strong female character in movies and TV shows. It's not true. No one feels scared about women taking over roles. It's about them giving this false idea to our kids, especially our daughters, that their only strength lies in physical power.
Dominance, yeah.
Whereas traditionally, women have been over centuries been thought of as the wise person in the home, the one that brings coolness to the man, helps him think straight, helps him make the correct decision so that he can look out for the best of his family, and he can go and make the most calculated decision for the future of their household.
Yeah.
She's like that anchor.
Yeah.
But none of that is like that traditional view of woman is completely gone.
It completely stripping her of the need to be a part of a family too. That's a really big problem.
Can we talk about the title? Just in itself, what a stupid woman king. Like, it's an oxymoron.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I didn't even think
a
about
king
that.
is a man.
Yeah.
It's
It's not a woman. The woman is the queen.
Dude, this is the problem, man. When you actually cause so much confusion between what a man and a woman is, anything goes now, because those are the two objective realities of society, which makes us as humans. If that part is blurred, everything's open.
But what I'm saying is that this is intentional.
Yeah.
They're trying to say that women are equal to kings. They can be kings. And the reality is, no, you can't.
You can be a queen.
Yes.
It's like saying a woman is a man.
Yeah. That's what they're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they're saying essentially.
I mean, the Queen of England has been the Queen of England for like
Right, and
she's a queen. She's same role as a king, but she's a queen.
So my thing is, they're actually doing more than just saying a woman can be a man. They're saying a woman can be the most powerful man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just. I mean, because usually king is a symbol of authority, dominance, sovereignty, right?
Yeah.
All of that.
Next thing you know, a woman of the year is going to be a man. I mean, what is world coming to?
That's taking it too far.
Okay, I shouldn't have made it transphobic. Sorry, guys, I'm sorry. I'm not transphobic. I love everybody.
No, but what I'm saying is like, and Simon's exactly right. Like, the real tragedy here is that women don't actually have role models now, because they have these unattainable role models, right? I mean, like if the role model for every single, I'm just giving you an example, for every man was to be 6'5", right? It's impossible. Not everyone could be 6'5". No matter what you do, you can't be 6'5", right? So likewise, for a woman to want to be as strong as a man is just physically, anatomically impossible.
Yeah.
Generally speaking.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm sure there's some bush women out there that would beat up a dude.
No. Most women
Yeah.
who go to the gym are stronger than most of the dudes that I know, anyways.
Yeah.
So.
but
For sure.
But
Come on, man. Have you seen the guys in our community?
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. But that's because they put effort, right? Now, if those guys went for one day a
If they
week.
put in the same effort, yeah. That's
No,
what
I'm thinking actually not even the same effort. If that guy went for 1 day a week, he'd be stronger than that woman who's in the gym. It's just the bottom line, right? The reality, because why? We have testosterone, we have bigger muscles, we have bigger bone density, we're just bigger than they are, right? The longer muscle, it's just anatomically we're different, right? Even if a woman's jacked up, right? Just doing the work that you do, the testosterone that keeps pumping in your body to keep moving, they don't have.
They can take it.
What?
They can take it.
They can take it.
Yeah, but that's different than if a man takes it, same amount that she's taking.
Yeah, oh yeah,
It'll
definitely.
be a world of a difference, bro.
There's a big difference between laying down and taking it and then giving the piling. You know what I mean? There's a big difference. You know what I'm saying?
No, you're talking about snow.
No, whatever it is. I'm just saying there's a big difference
Winter?
in the giver and the receiver. It's a big
see,
difference.
I see.
Okay?
Huh.
Like cement can take a whole lot of pounding, but it can't pound nothing.
I see what you're saying.
You get it?
I get
Okay,
it.
good.
Bruce Lee. Talking about Bruce Lee.
Anyways. But point being is, I think, you have to hit it on the head, right? Like, there's confusion in society, no aspirations. It doesn't serve any purpose,
It
right?
just falls.
Just breaking down, just breaking down the society.
Yeah,
That's
man.
all it is, man. It's garbage.
That's what it is.
Yeah, and but you know what? We can't be afraid to speak out about it.
Yeah.
I don't care what people
Yeah.
think, man. Seriously, I mean, who cares? It is what it is, right? A man won the Woman of the Year, right? I mean, that's as much as you're trying to be a feminist, it's still a man beating your ass, even at your own game. It's so sad, right?
Wait.
Oh, you couldn't even get that right.
This is so crazy. You just reminded me of something. So I was listening to this conversation with this trans former freak, whatever it was, right? And this straight woman was insulting this transgender thing, right? It's like, oh, you can't have any kids. You're just a fake woman. Blah 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 blah. He's like, well, you see, men are always better at everything they do, including being women.
Exactly, that's what it is, right?
And I was like, wow, what a comeback!
But
Honestly.
realistically, though, this is not a new concept, right? I mean, if you go back, these hijras have been around for thousands of years. India, I mean, as much as India is like a third world country, these people are accepted and part of society in Hinduism, Christianity, and even the Muslims.
Yeah.
Right? Even the Muslim people will be like, whenever there's like a kid born or a wedding, these hijras come, and the Muslims tolerate and treat them with respect because like they'll do black magic on them or something. They have some weird
That's
beliefs.
the real thing.
They have beliefs.
They believe that. You can't mess with them. Or
They
put
don't
black
mess
magic
with
on
them.
you.
They don't mess with the hijras. But it's not that. They're in their place. They do their thing. And this has been around in all cultures for thousands of years. It has never disturbed anybody's like.
like go to your pockets and
They're
sit
not
there.
pockets. They're in India, they're part of like, dude, they're servants in households that are that they're hired as these hijras are hired. We had one. I remember we when
That's
in
how
our
he knows
family.
about it.
Yeah.
Yo,
No kidding.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
What was that like?
I didn't live in India. I only visited one time.
Oh, I was gonna say.
But I remember this guy really well, and he was part of the family for a very long time. But it was not something unnatural. It was a pretty common in India because that's what they did. They were like.
But wait, was he dressing like a woman too?
Yeah,
He wears sari and everything.
Yeah, he would wear sari. I mean, and they didn't like do hormones and that.
But did you visibly know he was a man?
Yeah, we all knew.
Yeah.
So what'd you call him? Pyro or like?
No, he was a servant. They called him by whatever his name was.
Hey, give me that.
No, he had a name.
Oh, he had a name.
But look, nobody. No, my point is nobody abused him, right?
Yeah.
Nobody like insult. Did anything to this. These guys were walking around the streets completely normal. This is 1992 in India, in a village.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, over here these people are fighting like like.
Tooth and nail. Yeah.
Yeah, what are you
No, but
fighting
okay,
for? Nobody's
wait.
ever bothered you in history, dude. You've been around for thousands of years. Like now you want to bring it up. Now you want to make this whole like, oh, are we men? Are we women? No, just leave it the way it is. Do what you gotta do behind your closed doors. Have fun. I don't care.
Wait, to be fair though, wait.
I can tolerate you. I don't care.
Diesel
Wait,
type
to be
of
fair though, Shaq, listen. But I think traditionally, like if you were to talk to them, they would feel like they're probably like an unseen part of society. They feel like they don't have representation.
No, dude. It's
Right?
Not that, no, they actually are given a lot of power for that reason.
So the reason why I'm
Like, if
saying
you've
this
ever
is
been a
because
training
I was
media-
watching a video where they were like, hey, they're trying to unionize, because what happens is like when these people like who want to get off on this stuff, they take advantage of these people because the cops don't do anything about what happens to them. They're seen as like this subset underground part of society. They generally, even like prostitutes, when they get abused, they go end up residing with
Mertz,
them because they have their network, because the government doesn't do anything for them. So they have their own little network of like security and safety.
But Mertz, you have to understand, they know their place.
Oh, I'm 100% for that.
That's the difference. They know that they're out of and they live in harmony. And there are certain things, just like anybody, right? And if you're black in America, right? If you're Desi in America, you have we live with these little nuances, right? Of racism. It's the same thing for them. When they're in these countries that they've been there for thousands of years,
bro.
they have little nuances that they know, but they know they're doing something, again, I mean, not that black people or brown people are doing something against American culture, but being brown and black color, but they know that they're outside. They know, just like drug dealers over here and, anybody else, they know they're playing in a different realm, right?
Yeah.
And they're okay with that.
Like play your role.
They're okay with that, right? And nobody's ever had an issue with them. Nobody's ever had an issue.
Yeah. No, I know.
You know? I mean, there's even I can't remember, is it Imam Ghazali? But there is somebody who, some huge alim. I remember. I forget who was this. Just an alim. Somebody recently there was a talk, and it was in this old book. You know that some men actually feel like women. And he addressed it. The scholar has addressed all.
There were
these
eunuchs,
things. Yeah.
and actually there was some of there was some sahabiyat that had eunuchs that. Actually, the Prophet ﷺ gave a hadith about this because when he says one of the eunuchs was saying something about, I remember the hadith correctly, but if Allah opens a ta'if tomorrow, I know I will hook you up with this particular woman, and he was describing her. He's like, she has 4 stomachs in the front and 6 in the back or something, and the Prophet heard this and says, do not let these kinds of men around enter in your household. But he doesn't condemn them for being the eunuch or being effeminate, but rather that what the symptom, like the behavior that they exhibit,
Exactly.
if they exhibit certain behavior, do not bring them around. But if they stay in their lane, then there's no problem with them. And that's generally speaking because there's some people who lack, for whatever hormonal reasons or mental issues, whatever. Allah tests everyone differently, but that was the issue. And I guess that was very normal in that culture. But speaking of culture, I think there's going to be a big cultural change that's coming to Iran.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Well, right before we get to that, check out a book called The Effeminate Years by Declan Kavanaugh, who talks about the confusion around sexuality. Usually happens. He did a study of how many civilizations over the years have collapsed, or one of the indicators of collapse or decline in several civilizations was due to, or one of the signs was that people were confused about their sexuality. They're having problems making distinctions between roles of men and women in their civilizations, and this is one of their key highlights of
the name of the book?
decline. It's called the Effeminate Years.
Years. Okay, got it.
Years.
I just put it in my because I know that author, that lady.
And this references like the Byzantine, that period too, like the Romans.
I think the
Persian.
Romans and stuff like that. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
So yeah, check that out if you guys.
Yeah, I
have a
wrote it
chance.
down. I put it in my notes, man. Thank you.
I wonder if Mecca Book has it.
That'd be funny if they did.
Look at books, we love you. We're just saying that because we love you.
Cool. Yeah. So
Iran, dude, tell me what's happening in Iran,
Yeah,
bro.
what's going on, man? I have
Huh?
heard certain
Iran.
stuff, but I don't know what's going on.
So apparently there's this activist. What's her name again?
which activist? The girl.
The girl. I mean, I'm
who
sorry.
died?
Let me rewind that. Not an activist. There's a woman that was beaten, right?
Yes.
Okay. What was her name? Amina something. Hafsa.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm forgetting the name. But apparently, what happened is that they're alleging, again, I don't know the Iranian side, but apparently,
Mahsa Amini.
Masa Amina, right? There you go. Thank you very much. That she was improperly wearing hijab, and it kind of fell off or whatever. That this is what her family alleges. Apparently, the police tried to tell her to fix it. She was trying to get mouthy with them, whatever.
It's like the morality police.
Yeah, the morality police.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Hisma, okay? And they basically beat her. And they let her go after they beat her. And when she came out, the video shows her collapsing and fainting in the street. Take her to the hospital. By the way, apparently the family alleging it took a long time to take her to the hospital. Apparently the local people lost the keys to the local ambulance. So it took a while. I guess there was one ambulance in the city. I don't know. But they got to the hospital and they released scans. She had like multiple fractures in her in her face and her neck and brain damage or brain injury, and she died in the hospital. Okay. So again, this is what the family is alleging, right? Like, there's no other footage. I don't know if to my knowledge of the actual beating, right? However, so that set like everybody on fire when it came out. The activists. So in protest, the women are taking off their hijabs and burning it. Some women are cutting off their hairs in their hair in memory of her. And so Iran and like this is all the political activists in Iran always jump on these issues because they can exploit it, right, for their own benefit. So you see people also targeting pictures of Khamenei and Qasem Soleimani, like they're just burning them and desecrating them, and it's this thing that's happening. Like women are starting to dance in the street and things like that.
In rebellion. Yeah.
In rebellion to this regime, because they believe the regime is the core of why this is happening. This is the epicenter of why all these rules are there and stuff. So now that I mentioned that, I'm just going to say this: while I don't support Iran, Everyone knows I'm not a big fan of Iran. I very much dislike the Rawafid. But I think we have to be careful because haqq is haqq, right? We have to be careful that, and we have to know when a particular group is using something out of their hatred for Islam for their agenda. And it's tragic because I'm not saying what happened to this woman is right. But what I'm saying though is be careful who is making the most noise about it. Right? Meaning that, because their intention is not to really care about women. Some of these people who are activists, their intention is to eradicate Islam from Persia, from Iran, right? And keep in mind, there are 30% of Muslims that are there, right? That are Sunni Muslims, right? So the idea is that I'm not saying that we hope that Allah uses this to wipe out the Iranian regime and bring a Sunni government there, but you have to know who the actors are. Be aware of it. Just don't think that, this is some kind of lofty cause, right? There are people here who generally hate religion. They hate Allah and His Messenger. And they want nothing more than to go back to a Majusi culture in Iran, right? And me personally, I'd rather have some form of Tawheed than going back to fire worshipping monkeys, right? Rather have it that way. So,
no, it's unfortunate that
so I think just to preface it with that. Now, I'm not, by the way, this is no condoning of what happened to her.
Yeah.
It's absolutely haram.
Yeah.
If this is what happened, it's illegal. It doesn't, Islam does not say this, and people should be held responsible. But I'm saying just be careful. Understand who is flaming the fire.
It can be very enticing that you see some type of oppression happen, and with this much brutality, that someone may not just be thinking they're like, we're going to protest by taking off our hijab and burning it. It can sound really, really, to some people who aren't grounded, it can be like, we're doing it out of protest. Forget this, right? But they don't realize what they're getting themselves involved in.
But more importantly, what does that show? What about the other women in the world who you're supposedly doing this in the name of women? Women's rights. What about the women in the world that wear hijab and been fighting for the right to wear hijab?
Bro.
What does that say to them?
Yeah, dude.
Is it really about women?
No, they believe that even that is some kind of oppression by men.
Yeah.
That's
And this is my point.
Yeah.
Who is
Hijab is oppression by men, not by Allah.
Yeah.
They can't. Allah can't be an oppressor.
Yeah.
Right?
Of course. Yeah, man. Yeah,
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm about to share. You can just go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the other thing is, look, just on a deeper level, if you think about some of these ideas that come out, these motives and this reaction of, in protest, let us burn our hijab, let us cut our hair, let us cut the hijab off. One thing that we have to understand, there's a lot of infiltration, like you said, on a political level, because a lot of people want that. But there's so many things in our lives. When I heard about this, I was like, you know what? I'm going to save this for the podcast. I don't want to read on it. I want to be as natural as possible when I hear about this on the podcast. Is that there's so many things that happen that people do in reaction and rebellion to some type of oppression that happens, and somebody gives them an outlet to react with.
And here's an example on the screen.
And yes, exactly. To react with, which actually entices them so much that it seems like it's the right thing to do. This is what we literally, when Allah says that take shaitan as aduwwun mubin, as your most clear enemy. These ideas don't come only from people, right? They come from shaitan, and people embody these. When you think of it's an interesting way to go about it. If you think about it, not as a religious person, just from the outside, that seems like a pretty interesting thing to do. Revolt against the thing that caused the oppression. That's satanic. Think about all the ideas that atheists have that have so much mental gymnastics. Those actually were not completely developed by human beings. A lot of that was from waswas of shaitan. He knows, and he's wise, a rajim, in his own right, in his own way. And those ideas are whispered into people, and to people who don't know anything about Allah, and they hear some type of wisdom, false wisdom from shaitan, they're like, dude, this is amazing. Of course there's no God. Why would there be God? Because of all these things are satanic. So when I saw the way that this reaction was and I took myself out of the situation of somebody who would think about it Islamically, and I was like, dude, why wouldn't people, a whole generation of people who don't know anything about Islam, and their hijab and their Islam is their cultural identity marker, it's just an identity marker, why wouldn't they rip off their hijab and burn it in protest? Because we're all about protest now.
Yeah.
But they don't realize what they're doing, unfortunately. They don't realize the graveness of it.
What are you guys' thoughts when you guys see this from Dahlia Fahmy, who is a professor out of the East Coast, pretty well known in the United States, was always invited to a lot of conventions and speaking events. what are your thoughts when you see a woman who's burning off her hijab and she's writing hashtag Iran Revolution on her Facebook post?
So I will tell you this. This to me right now, if I was a non-Muslim symbolizing this, and I see a Muslim woman posting this, I would equate this with hijab being oppressive.
Yep, 100%.
That would be my gut reaction.
But is there any meme? Is there any message behind this? What else does she say?
Well, she's just basically just saying
Sure.
that.
I'm trying to give her excuses before we.
Well, that's what I'm not. It's just too big, right? It's a typical.
There's no lettering there. There's no words to follow that.
Just Iran Revolution. Hashtag Iran Revolution is what she posted, along with that picture of the woman with her hijab
There's no
burning
message
off.
in the body about that.
Well, the message, it's clearly evident when you see a woman's hair is,
She's breaking free of something.
Breaking free of the
like there's a
covering.
cover on one side and she's breaking free of that cover and she's screaming her way out of it. So meaning she's breaking free
I
of.
understand the picture. I'm saying, is there anything in the body, like a paragraph written?
No, nothing.
We're not sure, Shaykh. I mean, you came from Egypt recently, so we don't know if you understand art the way we do.
Actually, it's been 10 years.
Okay.
It's been a while.
Oh no, but hold on. Listen, back to what the Shaykh was saying. And I think it's a good point. And I think a more extreme example is this. All right. The Westward of the Shaitan made women believe that the sexual revolution was something to protest for.
Yeah.
It made them believe that being promiscuous and unaccountable is a right and a freedom. Think about that for a moment. To make your body a source, a pleasure for someone else and being used and abused and tossed out is now a symbol of freedom and dignity.
Yeah.
Sheikh, have you read in your readings anything about the government during the Khilafahs of old, whether it's the Ottomans or otherwise, whether there were like religious police going around making sure women are properly covered? Are you aware of any type of a Hizbah police, as they call it?
No, not
in
to,
the way ISIS had implemented it.
no, not to the newest phenomenon, or even to the phenomenon that Saudi had it. It was a common understanding. Look, if you have certain laws and the place is flourishing, look, if you take care of people's needs and you don't give them a fake understanding of empowering them, but they're actually empowered,
Right.
and they are people who are destined to carry the torch of Rasulullah and be the dominant deen and people and way of life in this world. If they're convinced of that, and you're convinced of that, society takes care of itself on that level, on the societal level.
Thank you so
Right?
much, because that's exactly what me and my wife were having a conversation about this, and we're like, the Islamic culture itself permeated civilization to such an extent they never need to police it.
Yeah.
Because the justice and the mercy of Islam was implemented from the top bottom,
Yes, but we have
and
to
from
take-
the bottom up.
But we have to understand, in all the culture, look,
Yeah.
people have to understand how versatile and how beautiful all this is too. When you're in an Islamic government and you live in Morocco, people who actually have even their cultural nuances as far as haya and all that kind of stuff, that stuff governs too. You have to understand that. Cultural understanding of people in India is going to be different than cultural understandings if it's ruled by Islam. They still have that room for their culture to govern also. People think that if whatever is implemented in Saudi Arabia has to be implemented, that's not how Islam ever was. The people of Morocco were very different. They were Maliki, and the people of Spain, they were very different. Their culture was different. They were still Muslim, of course.
Yeah.
They were still governed by the Sharia, but these cultural nuances, right, were very, very different in all these many places, which is fine. That added to preserving their communities because that gave them the autonomy to. And look, this is what it came down to. When you give somebody, imagine living in a society where the scholars prefer not to be very, very connected to the ruler himself. But at the same time, the ruler gives them the respect and allows them to function based on the stripes that they've earned, whether it's through the judicial court system of Islam and through their ijazah and their scholarship. And they themselves, these individuals, are respected by everybody in society. So the scholars are actually there to set trends to people and understanding of families, right? On a moral level, a societal level, educational level, right? And these institutions. So imagine that there's not any type of Islamically, originally, there's not supposed to be any type of enforcing from the ruler to tell an individual who's conducting his, if you want to say his village and stuff, hey, talk about this and make sure you do this, make sure you do. No, it's not that. If we hear complaints, then people have a right to take a political process of knowing that something wrong has been done, something haram is being done, right? But you have to understand that when you give people a proper understanding of the deen and proper understanding of Allah and His Rasul and their rights, and people all have this culture of rights of the ibad and the rights of Allah, you don't really need to police it that much. Now, someone could say, oh, look what happened in that khilafah, look what happened in this. Of course, human beings are human beings, right? Of course there were scholars that were jailed. Of course there were rulers that were, but Rasulullah already foretold us that these things are going to happen, even if this person's a khalif, right?
Yeah.
If he's a khalifa, what, he's masoom now? No, he's going to make mistakes. Of course
So
he is.
I just want to mention this. There's an interesting development. When you had Islamic society, I like to call it like this culture of aib. Like meaning that since
what?
Aib, like it was
Aib, okay,
aib,
yeah.
meaning that it's like it was strange, right? Meaning that Islam was embodied in the culture so much that if you were to publicly sin or get drunk or to use some fawahish in public, people would say aib.
Yeah.
Even though they didn't necessarily.
Kids would.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that even if they did it themselves in their homes,
Yeah.
but to do it publicly
Yeah.
is something that was considered to be shameful.
Yeah.
Aib is that's the best way of shameful.
Yeah.
It was shameful to do it publicly.
Yeah.
And this is something very important because there are some Muslims say, oh, when the Khilafah comes back, we're gonna beat all these zanadiqa and we're gonna get them into shape. and I think they need to understand that the Sharia protects the privacy of somebody.
Yeah.
It doesn't involve itself with what you do in your home.
Yeah.
It only protects the outside.
Yeah.
So what you do in your house is between you and Allah. It's haram to spy on someone.
Yeah.
So some of these governments, the hisbah, it gets mixed with spying.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to go, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're not supposed to go and look for the sins of people.
Exactly.
Just
supposed-
an FYI,
rather-
the Hizbah means police.
Yeah.
The religious police.
People
So-
will take account. Yeah.
Yeah, the account. Yeah, muhasib. Right. But the thing is that you're supposed to rather cover their sin. And one thing I love about the story of the Prophet, the hadith of Prophet ﷺ, was the woman who committed the zaniya. And she told the Rasulullah, I committed zina. And he says, he turned away, like he didn't hear her.
No. Just
Then she
walk
came
over
back and said again,
Yeah.
like, are you sure? Maybe you didn't actually do what you're saying you did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then she came back again. She says, I know because I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
He said, okay, go and nurse the child, deliver the child and nurse for 2 years, 2.5 years, and come back to me then, if you still feel something. She came back, and the Prophet says, fine, she wants her adab here. She wants the punishment here. No problem. The rajam, I think on her rajam, I think there was some blood from the rajam that actually reached one of the Sahaba, and he said, like he basically said, oh, like najasa, like he said, this is impure. And the Prophet got upset.
Yeah.
Right? He said her blood is purer than all of you are here right now, right? In this sense. So what I'm saying is that the Prophet would show mercy first.
Yeah.
If it was persistent, the person admitted it, or they were continuing in that way, then action has to be taken. But the first step is to show mercy and to deal with that issue.
Yeah.
For example, Abdullah, the Sahaba who was drunk. The Prophet ﷺ would joke. They used to call him Himar because they used to joke with him because he used to make the Prophet smile. So his nickname was Himar, and he would come to the Prophet drunk, right? And the Prophet would order him to be lashed, right? But look how he did this. He still maintained a relationship with him to the point where they could joke with one another. For example, he loved the Prophet so much that when something would come from a caravan would come from outside, if it had honey or butter or anything from outside, he would say, I want this. And he would take it, and then he would call the Prophet and say, give me a price for this man. Right? And obviously, right? So basically he would get it, right? And no one would charge the Prophet ﷺ, right? And the Prophet would laugh, but and so he loved the Prophet so much. And so one of the Sahaba, when he was lashing him, said, he cursed him basically. He said, what a wretched man. He continually he does this. And the Prophet says, do not curse him. Right? For you don't know, wallahi, he loves Allah and his messenger.
Yeah. SubhanAllah.
So
No, and that I think I'm so glad you mentioned the thing about Rasulullah turning away poor. There's actually a whole understanding of fiqh and principle for the reason why Rasulullah, and this happened multiple occasions. There's a hadith of Ma'iz and Ghamidiyya where the man comes to Rasulullah, same thing, right? Rasulullah, I committed zina, right? And one of the narrations, obviously, he turns from him in the fourth time. And then the other is that Rasulullah actually says to him, لَعَلَّكَ قَبَّلْتَهَا. Maybe you just kissed her. The man knows if he committed zina or not. What is Rasulullah doing? Because there's not four witnesses. That's where the concept of four witnesses comes. Is that Rasulullah, not only is there mentioning of the four witnesses in the Quran and all that, but Rasulullah was literally saying, no one else saw that. Do tawbah and you're good, dude.
Like providing them a way out.
Way out.
Yeah.
And he kept on coming. And after the fourth time, the Rasulullah said, are you sure? And then Rasulullah would put the had on them, right? But the story of even like, I mean, I'm not going to get into the details of the story, but even, Imam Abu Hanifa had a drunk neighbor. He could have easily reported this person that was constantly disturbing Imam Abu Hanifa with singing and music and being drunk and all that kind of stuff. Imam Abu Hanifa didn't. But he gave him nasiha and bailed him out of jail. Yeah.
Well, interesting is that, Imam Abu Hanifa, and look at that society. They did not put ta'zir or hudud on him, right? Even when he went to jail. They jailed him for while he was drunk. When he would sober up, they would release him. Why? So he was not publicly in the open doing this, his fawahish.
Yeah.
So they would let him be drunk in the jail.
Great observation.
And
Yes,
he would
sir.
come out sober,
Yeah.
and then they would advise him.
Yeah.
Why? Because the objective of Sharia is to protect society, not to harm it.
Bro, that's a great point. And the reason for that is, look, when something happens inside somebody's home and it gets out of control and seeps out of their home, then obviously the government's going to get involved and the police is going to get involved. But if they're going to keep it in their homes and nobody knows about it, dude, that's between you and Allah. That's why there's the concept of tawbah, right? There can be somebody who's constantly drinking but actually fears Allah, right? And they're only doing, and you're talking about the thing of shame, right? When you do something in the open, it's natural to be embarrassed. But a person who has to do it in hiding, look at that wisdom of Allah, right? Obviously. If somebody has to do it in hiding, they're going to get sick of it eventually. Like, dude, I'm such a loser. I just have to do this all on my own and make sure that I don't do it in public. Dude, you're going to get your stuff together, dude.
You
know
feel
what I'm saying?
like a hypocrite.
Of course you do.
Right, right.
Yeah, of course you do, bro.
And it's a struggle that you have, and that's why
But
Allah...
now it's like be proud of yourself.
Right, exactly.
That's the problem.
Now it's
That's the
having...
problem.
Exactly. Now the opposite.
Do what you want.
Hyper-individualism.
It makes you feel good.
Talk about it. Speak your truth.
Yeah.
Live your life, right?
Let
This is
everybody
my...
know. And then you have the social media aspect. You now portray your sin to everybody. Can you imagine living in the social media world era, dude? You have no chance.
Yeah, dude.
If you screw up and you put your sins out there, and now 1 million people have seen it.
A'udhu billah.
They're witnesses to it.
These are a million witnesses that will stand testament along with your limbs on the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah. And this is what, by the way, what you mentioned about the whole dynamic of sitting in your home and seeking tawbah. I love it because it connects to the ayah, قُلْ يَا إِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ.
Yeah.
This ayah is so amazing to me because Allah tells people when He's talking about sinners,
Yeah,
He doesn't
it's
call
amazing.
them people who are fasiqun or He doesn't. He mentions them with Ya ibadi,
Yeah. The highest of calling of people.
and He says the verse is that say to my servants, whoever has and another word who has transgressed against himself.
Yeah.
You can't transgress against Allah.
Yeah.
You can't. He's all powerful.
SubhanAllah.
This is something you're harming yourself with. He says, do not despair from the mercy of Allah. Inna Allah yaghfiru dhunuba jami'a. He can forgive all. Indeed, Allah can forgive all your sins.
Yeah.
Innahu huwa al-ghafur rahim. He is, indeed, He is the most merciful.
Yeah, because someone could think the reason for that is like, man, I've accumulated a mountain. There's no way Allah would forgive me. Allah's saying, don't forget about the mercy of Allah. It's not what you think. It's a lot more. Imagine what you would think. It's much more than that. Anything that you could think of. Because that's how, again, shaitan plays waswas, right? Why would Allah forgive you? No, just go all the way now. You've gone too far. Don't ask for forgiveness. But for us, in Muslims, that's an act of kufr. We never undermine the rahmah of Allah.
This is so crazy. You know why? Because I relate this so much. Like, the shaitan will give you waswas, like you said, right? But tie this with the cancel culture,
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
right? Their idea is that you're irredeemable now.
Yeah.
And parallel that with Islam. Nah, it doesn't matter what you do. As long as you believe in Allah, everything can be forgiven.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Everything.
Yes, sir.
A murderer.
Yes, sir.
Even something to, even one waliyadu billah who rapes his mother can be forgiven.
SubhanAllah.
I mean, not to say that he won't be punished in this world.
Yeah, no. I'm saying if he did it, if it happened in private, no one knows and nothing happened. I'm saying even one who did this disgusting thing, even if he's punished in this world, that is still a maghfirah. The one who has hudud in this world, he doesn't face it in al-akhirah.
Yeah.
So even that in itself is a maghfirah.
You're right. Hijab.
True or false? The statement that these religious police in Saudi Arabia or Iran, ISIS, Taliban, whatever you want to call it, these Hizbah polices, they do more damage to Islam than good.
It's not about doing damage to Islam. I know what you're saying. Yeah, for
The way they implement Islam,
course.
that's the way that they're constantly harassing men and women. They're always like,
Yeah.
for example, in Saudi Arabia, if you're smoking a cigarette, they come and give you a hard time or
No, look, there's something.
yeah.
Unfortunately, look, the way things are.
I don't know about right now, but
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. I partially agree and why I disagree. Also, I'll tell you why. In a sacred land, let's just talk about Mecca and Medina for right now. In the land of Mecca and Medina, let's talk about everywhere else, right? In the land of Mecca and Medina, I get the sentiment. Forget about all the hypocrisy and governmental levels and why they're there and all that. Well, mutawas aren't even that active anymore, are they, right, Mort? Mutawas have been taken away now, right? They're not.
Well, they've been severely limited.
Yeah.
Like they can't enter the malls anymore.
yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah, so they had. So the thing is, look, I personally think it's a conundrum. Why? Is the mutawa became a part of the culture, but you have to have somebody that's doing amr bil ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar in the land of the haramain, because the society is not taking care of itself, right? So do their methods have to change of how they correct people in education? Of course that has to change.
Yeah.
Do I like the idea of people going around? I would prefer that the idea is that they're considered public servants, not as like police public servants. I'm talking about like Muslim public servants that consider themselves as shepherds and they're out for the people, helping them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's very doable because they have a lot of money to do so. Not that we're just going to pop up when something haram happens. Some of the stories are funny. I know some brothers. For men, I'll just tell you, for men, I think for women it's very different. But for men, some of them loved the fact when they get older, they're thinking, hey, we used to play soccer and the mutawas used to come in their SUVs and make us go to the masjid, and we used to run scared into the masjid. Dude, I think that's kind of cool. I'm not going to lie, because I know for guys, for some people, that works and they appreciate it later. That kind of stuff doesn't work for women. That's what Rasulullah even dealt with women very differently.
Yeah.
And there has to be a different level of education. There has to be a different level of just a demeanor that you have. It's not like, I'm here because you're better be following Islam. You know, it's like, dude, how can I help you become a part of Allah's deen better? Because if you don't, then Allah's going to ask me because I'm responsible, right? So help me do my duty in front of Allah so I can help you. What difficulty are you having that we can help you do this type of thing? At least something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I just remember when we were young, we would hate it when during Qardawi, us three would go to.
Don't say us three. Don't bring me into this.
You were in there too, bro. We would go play basketball after our 8 rakats were actually like 4
Bro,
rakats.
I'll be honest,
And
though.
we'd sneak into the gym.
I'll be honest. Amir was just a follower. He saw the opportunity to get. But honestly, I have to admit this. I was primarily responsible for that.
You were all responsible for that. But hold on. All of this, look, I'm glad we
By
had
the
this
way,
guest.
I'm gonna tell story time.
You will. And Shaq is like, these guys are losers. I was leading Tarawih, bro.
Yeah. No. I'll tell you. Literally. So check this out. My dad used to have the keys to the gymnasium. I figured it out somehow, right? So I copped them.
Yeah.
And I popped it open. I remember there was Uncle Khalid from the bookstore.
Yeah.
Bro, he got pissed. Because he used to maintain the building. And we locked the gym from the inside because we were playing basketball. So no one can get in. We had the lights after 8. That's how we were sitting there balling, right?
There was a lot of other things we did with keys.
No, but hold on.
Our keys
Hold
too,
on.
that key thing, and we were
forgetting.
13 years old, 14 years old. I'm not going to say what we did, though.
Yeah. So check it out. He's banging on this door, right? We're like, yeah, whatever. He's banging, pounding on the door, right? And I remember we put paper on the window so he couldn't see. He's banging on the door. Finally, though, you remember this? I don't know if you remember him. He gets a crowbar from his car.
Oh shit!
And he props open the side door. We hear it cracks open, and he just comes charging us with this. We threw the ball at him and ran.
Yeah, so you were a part of all of that.
But,
though.
all right. So
But what he's
the
saying.
point is
Sorry.
is that we have a lot. What's going on with your mic?
It's just going in and out.
Just
in and out.
Tell us more.
That sounds very suspicious, Shaykh Ahmed.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah. So you were saying?
He lost
This
his
is why you were
point.
talking. No, I'll remind him.
No,
He
You were
was
talking
saying that
about the
people
history
don't
No,
of
like.
I just remember like imagine that uncle who's breaking through our basketball game and disrupting our practice or our fun and games during the holy nights.
Yeah.
We didn't like it that much, and that didn't make us want to go pray. So similarly, I don't think these religious polices have any positive impact on society at all,
Yeah,
unless there's someone doing like open fashion, like you know, wearing a bikini or wearing like going completely against what the cultural norm is of the society. You know, I don't think grabbing people by the ear and bringing them to the mosque is an effective
Yeah.
tactic to get them closer to God. I
It is.
think.
Yeah.
I don't think that takes a genius to even.
Yeah.
So I'm a little confused on this. So I'll tell you why. So look, I understand, like if you are wali al-amr, like you have control of the state, your responsibility and like my responsibility are very different. Like you are from Ahl Ghanam, like Ahl Ghanam, and you have to take care of your shepherd. I mean, your flock, right? And the way I see it is this: that the Quran commands us, let there be a group that arises that enjoins the good and forbids the evil. Right. So if the Emir is there, he cannot watch everything.
Of course.
Right. And there are things that are going to happen in public that would, you know, that you can catch right away. Right. There are trends that are starting. Right. And you have to have eyes in the ground.
You have to.
Without being spying. But I think I prefer to say this. I have no problem with the mutawwa. It's of the concept of it. But because I've met some very good people who are mutawwas.
Of course I have.
Excellent people.
Yeah.
Like who give softest dawah. And I've met some total idiots at all. Like,
Yeah.
And I think the problem that specifically Saudi Arabia did is they brought Bedouin people, like who had no idea about city life, and they threw them into the city.
That's a big problem, yeah.
And they had no idea of how people interact, how they what the norms were, because the urf is different. The custom is different in the city versus in the Bedouin areas. Very different. Even the women were, right? Women tend to be more, out of sight in the Bedouin areas. They tend to be less outside in the public because it was dangerous for them to be that way in public. In the city, it's safe. Women could go out to the store. They could do this. They had their own thing, own customs. And they mixed their culture with the religious policing. And they brought that harshness of being Bedouins to that. Right? The Bedouin, generally speaking, their mannerism is very direct.
Yeah.
Not empathetic. It's very direct. It's right. Maybe what they're saying is right, but there's no tactfulness in it.
It
Because
works for
that's
them.
not the language they speak.
Yeah.
Right? And so that was one of the biggest issues I noticed when I was there. But when you
a
speak
great
to these
observation.
people, when you speak to them, get past their rudeness. But when you speak to them, wallahi, these people, generally speaking, wanted good for people.
Yeah, they do.
They did. They went about it the wrong way. So I would say, I agree with what Amr was saying, that you have to bring people. Like there are some shuyukh now, if you go on YouTube, like they go and they have these dawah clinics where they're calling the youth. They say, did you make tawbah today?
Yeah.
Don't fear making tawbah. Don't be arrogant. Make tawbah. Come to Allah. Like these things can be done in this way, which is excellent. Provide a service, like a clinic, a mobile clinic, where people who are thirsty for spirituality, who need a reminder that maybe they feel like crap because they've been doing things, they think they've gone far, remind them. And I think in that way it can work. But what Sim is saying is absolutely right. You can't walk around with a tire knocker, and beat people up, right? It's not going to work.
Shaq wanted to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
Shaq D.
no, yeah. What I was gonna say was about policing in general, whether it's like religious policing or secular policing. The issue is that the people you choose for that job has to be of a certain caliber. I was just thinking about it just yesterday. Me and my wife were going somewhere. We were talking about cops and just the whole thing. And I was saying that their job, is such a if you think about the job itself, whether you're doing it from secular perspective or Islam, it's such a prestigious, position,
be.
right?
Yeah.
It is. You're serving the public. You're upholding the laws and rules, whether they're Islamic laws, rules, or whether they're secular laws and rules. You're upholding those. That's what's set for that whole society. That's what's best for the entire government. We pick these people, like to your point, they brought Bedouins from out here. If you look at the CPD, they bring gangbangers in, right? And they want you to police this group of people, and they have people like us, and they have people, good people, they have all kinds of people.
Yeah.
But they've chosen this, first of all, no one wants to do the job. The pay sucks. I bet you this is probably the same thing in the religious place, right? Maybe it's a crappy life. Maybe they don't have good benefits. It's not a good job. It's like the low end job. Hey, you want to do this? Just go do this. And that's what the policing has become, right? It's low pay, right? They don't want to spend money on the most important thing, which is taking care of their society, which is where our money should be going, anyways. So they get the crappiest of the crappiest in both situations, and I get it. Right, when you have these people like the Bedouins, because there are certain people in society who just are difficult to deal with, right? Like we have a lot of criminals, and when you ask, when you go to the government and say, why did you hire ex gangbangers in CPD? Well, because the crowd in Chicago is tough, and we need somebody to fight fire with fire. So we took these guys, we brainwashed them, we trained them, and now we throw them back on the street. So now you got a messed up dude, you know, who's been brainwashed with some other messed up stuff, right? Now he's been trained to do some other crap, you know, and now it's a mix of it's a hodgepodge of. Most cops are crazy, dude. They're not normal people, and more stories come out. There's more and more cover-ups, and you know, they're just not good people. I took the CPD exam, you know, more than once, and I was thinking about it, and I dropped out, and I went back. Yeah, before IT.
Shaq, I didn't know all this. What's up?
I went in that line.
Sergeant Shak.
Dude, I went when I sat there for the exam. I looked at the people around me. I'm like, I can't be one of these kind of people.
Bro, listen, I'm not gonna lie.
That's a dope story.
Hold on one
dude.
second,
I
dude.
didn't know this about you.
Listen,
I went to IT.
honest to God, you know the story. I don't want to say the whole detail, but you know of the event where we got robbed straight up by CPD.
Oh, dude, CPD's.
Like they straight up robbed some of our belongings.
Yeah.
And all right, go on your way.
But the point is, they pick these people for a couple of reasons, right? Because nobody wants to do the job, the caliber of the job, or whatever it is. And second of all, they do pick them up because they want them to be dealing with the hard ones. You know, that's all they're thinking about. They're thinking about the hard guy. But what happens when these people come across the good people? They don't know how to deal with them. They don't know what they're doing. And then that becomes, and you know, that in both sides, right? Islamically, you start pushing people away from the deen. Secularly, we start hating the government. After the government, we don't want to deal with this crap. Look at these people. Right. It's the same sentiment, right? So it's the same thing with the religious police.
It's a good point. I mean, because you know why I think about this though. I kind of relate this to the point in Egypt. Under the secular days, right? If you couldn't get into med school or engineering school, you went to the Jama.
Yep.
Okay.
It was seen something like,
Yeah.
all right,
Low grade point average, it goes to Islamic studies. Yeah.
right,
And
and
that's
that
the same thing with Medina University and the cops that patrol in the Haram. They're all Medina University graduates, from what I understand.
well, not all of them, to be honest, but they try now. What they do is, so they have like a little training session for them there, like on the general dawah. But I wouldn't say I'd be reluctant to say that all the people who are mutawwas are actually from graduates of the university, right? They have the basic da'i training, and they have to have. I mean, they're by a long shot, they're not like scholars and
Yeah. So when I went to the Haram, I remember when I met some guys, and you know, we just started talking, and they took me to where they have like the security area where they just like relax and like have some cameras and stuff. Some of them were actually students and stuff. Sweetest guys, really good dudes. Really like the type of people we were talking about. There's students in the Jamia and stuff like that. Really good dudes, right? So you're right. There's some people that are really awesome, and some of them are students. Some of them do it like part-time type thing. Because dude, there's some people that just want to be in the Haram and work in the Haram.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I don't think even the majority has anything to do with like an Islamic university.
And I'll be honest, I think in the early days, it was based on how you looked. And I'll tell you why. Because when I would go visit the Haram, my beard was much longer, right? You know, I had the shumag, right, and put it on. Even if I didn't have it, people would think I was a mutawwa. And they would come to me with questions, right? And I'm like, no, bro, I'm not. Right?
Like, yeah, Qibla's that way.
Yeah. I'm like, you see the Kaaba? Go there. No. But the thing was like I think it was like, okay, traditionally they this outward Islam.
Yeah.
Oh, mashallah, he has a beard that's big. He must be religious,
right away.
right?
Yeah.
And I remember it was so confusing because I went to a particular store and I was trying to buy ma'asid, and the guy was like, you know, because in America you just think the beard's a beard, right? Like you're not gonna, you know, whatever, right? But the ma'asid is tobacco for the shisha. So the store owner swore by Allah he'd never sell me tobacco. Because he saw the beard. I mean, but I appreciated it because it showed how much they respect at that time.
Yeah.
How they appreciated people
respect that,
who had religion, right?
Yeah.
And so he's like, I'm not going to aid a mutawwa doing something like this, right? Like that was kind of
going back to your guys and secretly doing it.
So I said, imagine decided to go buy it later. But the point being is that that was the relationship that they had.
Yeah.
That they expected people who had the beard. Why would someone grow a beard? It's obviously because they were religious, right?
Yeah.
And then it became more of like, okay, so it wasn't really based on knowledge. It was based on that person's desire to practice his religion.
Yeah.
And that was sometimes a mistake. Because those people can be overzealous. Because a guy tomorrow can repent from his sins and grow a beard out. Like maybe I can grow my beard out in 2 months and be a long beard, right? And then you make him a mutawwa. It doesn't work that way.
Man.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there were some problems with it, but I think in general, the concept of having a religious police, I'm not opposed to it. But it has
I
to be
agree.
done the right way,
I
with
agree.
wisdom, with hikmah.
Yeah. I think even the word religious police is a bad word for it.
Yeah.
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 I mean, there shouldn't be a differentiation. If you're an Islamic country, a police should be a police.
Yeah.
And all those rules, if they're Sharia rules, it should be within the laws of the government.
You're right.
And you protect them. You can't just come back and say, yo, we're going to protect moral and ethics separately, and that's a completely separate constitution. You can't do that. It's impossible.
No. Gotcha, man.
So someone's asking in the text, can you explain, Ya Shaykhana, the concept of la ikraha fi din, and in relation to this, as far as being enjoining good and forbidding evil?
Oh, that's a great idea. Well, so first thing we have to remember is when Allah is referring to la ikraha fi din is originally talking about bringing people into Islam.
Can you translate that to people?
Yeah, so there's no compulsion in religion. There's no forcing somebody to change their way of life into the way of life of Islam, right? The reason why I'm saying you have to understand the original meaning is a lot of people utilize the original meaning for giving nasiha to somebody or telling their daughter to wear hijab, their son to wake up for Fajr, or whatever the case is, right? That's not what it's actually referring to, is that Allah, the hidayah is only with Allah. Your job is to give people the message and give nasiha and have lots of rahmah with them. Don't change your attitude with them as long as it's a relationship, like for instance your neighbor, right? You have to have a certain decorum, and ultimately you can't force somebody. And there's two reasons for that. You can't force somebody to become Muslim, is because if you force them, number one, they're really not Muslim, and number two, forcing somebody means that you're an authority. So you can't misuse your authority to make somebody become Muslim, right? So that's basically at the forefront. So when we're talking about religious police, does that come into? Of course.
So before you get there,
Yeah.
so this is in relation to iman, because you can't force iman into somebody.
No, you can't.
Right?
You can't.
But I think when we're talking about enjoining good and forbidding evil, that would be related to societal laws and norms.
Yeah, it would, and which is ultimately, yes, related to iman. But I know what you're saying. But now when you have somebody, the mutawwa religious police, and they're just trying to uphold something. Let's say, for instance, the rule is like, how do you work with this? Like, I want us to think about this. I'm going to answer the question, but policy is that when the adhan goes off, you close all the shops. Cool. You close all the shops. Everybody goes to the masjid or whatever it is, right? They can't be buying and selling, right? Let's say that's the policy. That's how the country conducts itself. Hypothetical. Now, it's the rule, and Islamically, it's what you're supposed to be doing. There's only a few exemptions, right? For conducting tijara or whatever the case is, for when salah is going on in jama'ah right next to you, right? But someone can say that I have to gain my livelihood, and you're forcing me to do something. You know what I'm saying? So this is forcing me to follow something. So you have to also look at the context of what the verse is talking about. There's some issues that what the mutawwa is saying is actually religiously correct. Maybe they're just not doing it in the way of rahmah and the prophetic.
So let me give you an example, a more practical one. Because a lot of the mutawwa issues, to be honest, right, Sim, are usually women who are feeling the more brunt force of it, like, oh, we can't do
understandably
cover. So what I want to say is that, so what about in a potential, like, let's say there's an Islamic government, Muslim majority government, and they have a form of religious police, and they have a group of people that say, listen, we are going to enforce our hijab policy, right? Can someone claim that they cannot obligate that they have to wear hijab because of la ikraha fi din?
Can they obligate? Well, that's actually a really good question, to be honest with you. If the government has decided that this is how men and women are going to dress, men are not allowed to wear, let's go a little farther with that. Let's just make it both sides, right? Let's say that, you can't men can't wear tank tops, let's just say, and they can't wear anything it has to be below their knees, right? Whatever they're wearing. And if they don't follow that rule, because the government wants to uphold Islamic rulings of the madhab that the qadi and the khalifa decide to choose, then that wouldn't be la ikraha fi din, because that's policy, right? Is that this is how you're expected to dress in public, and we're not asking you to do something haram. We're telling you what is the natural disposition. You can't force people to wear niqab. That's different, because difference of opinion. You can't force them to do that. But you can ask them to do what is a basic fard, that if you're coming out in society, this is what your decorum is going to look like. But does
Interesting.
that mean that if they see a woman that's not dressed properly, let's just say she's not wearing hijab and she's wearing tight clothes or whatever the case is, in some societies, the dilemma is just historically they would think that woman was of a certain profession, right? And she just her clothes blew away, and this is what she's wearing underneath, right? So the reason I'm saying this is that even if a woman was dressed, it's not like everyone would come and start spitting at her and stuff, right? There would be people who would come and give her nasiha and help her and ask her if she needs anything, whatever the case is.
Could there be ta'zir for her?
It depends what she's doing, who she's riling up in that
I'm
process.
saying, listen, let's say she's rebelling. I refuse to wear hijab in public, and I don't want to wear it.
Yeah, of course there can be ta'zir. Why
Right.
not?
And so this is why I say I want people to understand the difference. The obligation of the Amir or the Khalif is different than your obligation.
Can you guys explain what ta'zir means?
Yeah, tazir is basically a punishment that can be done by a ruler, but it's not from the Quran. It's not a hudud.
Ta'zir is basically a certain type of warning, a warning penalty type thing.
Okay.
It
Or
can be
a certain
imprisonment.
type
It can be a
that's decided
fine.
by the qadi. The
Yeah.
qadi decides, right? And look, the reason why, some people may think in why we're talking about this thing, this may seem to some people very primitive. It may seem too elementary. Maybe like, why are we spending all our time on this? Look, we talk about ideas to understand the root of things, of where they come from and why they are the way they are, right? Now, to many people, which Islam is very dear to, they're very curious to know what would happen if we were living in a society in which the society that we're not living in right now. What would the scenario be like? What would it be? That's why we're talking about these. It's not just to talk about women and bash on women
Right.
and hijab and stuff. The reason I'm saying that is I met somebody at ICW, a brother, who told me that, hey, can you address certain things, because me and my wife, we listen to the podcast and all you guys do is spend time on dogging on women. I was like, well, listen, number one, we don't dog on women. It's like, yeah, you guys constantly talk. Can you just give a little more explanation Islamically of why?
Okay.
That's why I'm.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh,
Understood.
Here's one thing that people need to understand regarding how societies are formed. There's
Yes,
an
sir.
identity.
Yes.
There's an identity of every society in the world, whether it's Islamic or non-Islamic, and the upholding of that identity is something that's a very hot button issue all across Europe, and that's why they're having all these debates around immigration and how many people they should allow inside. Why France is so desperately trying to wipe out or erase any expression of Islam among their female women folk. And similarly, while those views in those societies go unchallenged, like, oh, well, when in Rome, you must be like the Romans, that old age-old saying. Well, when you're among an Islamic society, you act like a
Got
Muslim.
it. That's it, bro.
Exactly.
Nothing. No one needs to say
So
nothing
that's
else. That's what it is.
And
Every
basically,
idea
yeah,
has
it's
its
just
identity.
government law. I mean, it's simple, right? We have laws here that we have to follow. If it's an Islamic country, that's their laws.
Yes.
But personally speaking, we can't force you to wear hijab, right? I mean, that's not because of that ayah in general, but just that's just the nature of Islam, right? We don't say you have to pray 5 times a day. Yes, it's an obligation. If you don't do it, you have a problem with the law.
Yeah.
So
Even on an individual level,
So-
even there's a difference of opinion amongst the scholars, is of if you're, for instance, you want your wife to wear hijab, or you want your daughter to wear hijab, and she's refusing to wear hijab, right? There's an element there of forcing, but what you can do is, yeah, fine, I'm not going to force you, but I'm not going to allow you to leave the house like that.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
don't have to wear it, right?
But I think that's related to accountability.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're also responsible if you did not try to encourage that. But I think people need to also...
That's very true.
Yeah,
Very,
and I think people need to also understand that responsibility, times that by 1,000,000, and that falls on the Khalif.
Yeah.
He's responsible for what he allows, as he mentioned, the society. He's shaping the society. And so because he's responsible for that, I personally believe that if the Khalif came out and said niqab is wajib, you have to wear it. The Khalif in his wisdom understands what's happening.
Yeah.
And even if he's got it wrong, but we are people who obey authority.
Yeah.
وَأُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْكُمْ.
Yeah.
Right? So if he commands that, this is we're not a religion of hyper individualism.
Yeah. Yes,
Right?
Very true.
And so the idea is that if the Khalif commands it, even if you think he's wrong in judgment,
Yeah.
the command is to stick to the Jama'ah.
Yeah, but the problem with postmodern thought and anti-authority thinking, and this is why I think this is very important that you mention this, is that, look, our anti-authority thought doesn't exist in Islam It exists when tyranny occurs, when outright haram happens, right? But we're not amongst those people that try to challenge everything the authority over us tells us to do, right? Because we actually wanted them in power. We wanted them to be there as long as they uphold Allah and His Rasul. If they're not upholding Allah and Rasul, then we have certain channels of taking care of that, right? But that's very, I think these 2 points are amazing, bro. Number one is that every society has its identity. And if you choose to be Muslim, your identity is Islam. That's the first. The other is what you just mentioned right now. I think this is the highlight, mashallah, bro, of this podcast, is because the misunderstanding that people have and what has been given to them of what a khilafah is and what a khalifa is completely given in the picture of something that was taught by Europeans of what a khalifa is, right? And they haven't learned it from Islamic sources and Muslim sources of our rich culture. And that is that if he decides to do something and we believe to him to be the shepherd, we're not saying that he's infallible. We're not saying that he's infallible. We're saying that if Allah tells us that if the Khalifa over us is not openly doing haram and is not oppressing us, and he's asking us to do something from Islam, which the cabinet that he has of jurists and his judges are okay with it, then sami'na wa ata'na. We're listening to him because listening to him is listening to Allah and His Rasul.
Can I ask something here? This sounds just like any government.
Exactly.
I mean, I understand
but we're the
debate is.
hypocrites.
No, but here in America, no.
I mean,
That's why I love having this dude here, bro. Just talking from the fitrah, man.
What you're saying is what America,
Yeah, but-
how we live in America. There's rules here that we don't like. That we don't
Yeah, but
agree
in
with.
America, it'll be like this. We can protest. We can get out and march in the street.
But you
Raise
do
the
that-
flags.
Why can't you do that with if the Khilafah is there? The Khilafah is government. That's all it is. I mean, we don't have to.
Yeah, but I'm saying our interaction. So here's the thing. You're right, 100%. It's a government. But I'm saying the way that we're instructed to interact with authority and the way they want to interact with authority here are two different mindsets. Here, it's like we the people, by the people, for the people,
It's not
governed by the
true.
people.
We know that. It's not true.
Yeah, but I'm saying.
We know that's not true.
No, but that's why they get out.
It's dictatorship just with a different,
Yeah, but Shak, what I'm saying is
It's not
that's
by
why
me.
they get out and say we're gonna march for women's rights,
Yeah.
we're gonna march for gay rights, we're gonna march for this right, for that right, for this right, for this, whatever, right? In the Khilafah, and this is why I sympathize and empathize with brothers who say protesting is worthless, right? It's not from our tradition. We don't go out and protest, right? The idea, but I think there's limits, obviously. I know there's conditions, but what I'm saying though is that, generally speaking, and I always thought about this way. I'm like, what would I do? Like, for example, what if the Khalif came in and said, you know what, tomorrow there's no more fitted hats, you can't wear it, right? I mean, I feel I have to throw half my collection out, right? Me and Sim would be like, yo, we can't wear fitteds no more. It's a tough one, but okay. But I would do it. Do you know why? Because I said, listen, just as I would want the Khalif to assume good about me and husn al-dhan, I should have that for him.
That's true.
And the shura. There's something that he's seeing at a bird's eye level by seeing all parts of society, that he there's certain knowledge that he's privy to
Yeah,
that I'm not privy to,
of course.
right? And even if
that's
he's
how like
wrong,
government.
Like any politician,
Sounds like
like
government.
any politician that's privy to
That's what they
things
tell
that
you,
we're not
right?
privy to.
Yeah.
We're looking at the whole country. We're just
right?
making the
And so
decisions.
the idea is that, and more importantly, I'm going to stick to the concept is fundamentally different between how people view the government here and how we should, is that we at all costs want to stick to the Jama'ah.
Yeah.
The last thing that we want to see and the last thing we want to be responsible for is breaking of that Jama'ah.
Okay,
Which
so
is why, yes. go ahead.
we really got a break. I've been trying to.
Sorry.
We gotta take a break.
Mecca
here.
Books, we love you.
Yeah, we do love
And
it.
there's
This episode
the
is
bills.
brought to you by Mecca Books, your source for traditional Islamic knowledge. It's where seekers of knowledge go to buy their books. Go directly to Mecca Books because they have a massive catalog that covers just about
Chef,
every
the chef is
topic
talking.
from fiqh, aqidah, hadith, tasawwuf, and everything else in between. You can go to meccabooks.com/TMM and use the code TMM for a 10% discount.
And we're back.
We should get some. By the way, by the way, you guys in the audience who are listening, you heard that. I thought this was like Zamzam water. I was gonna spray it on the Shaykh because he was kind of getting goofy. But we should get a bottle of Zamzam water, by the way, and spray it around him sometime when he gets.
To relieve all the
I don't
shayateen.
mind.
Get rid of the shayateen. Read Surah Al-Fatiha and get rid
We'll
of the
just spray in
shayateen.
that direction. It'll be perfect. No, but I mean, so again, I think that's the biggest thing, right? Where we come down to about the Jama'ah and all the concept of identity, the commandment to obey, and that assuming good about your brethren, right?
And if you could openly go to the judge and go to people in authority and speak to them openly, you're not actually going to have people that break the Jama'ah and protest, because that thing, like you said, the existence of that was very rare. And that exists with two things. When you give people a false sense of power, that what they're going to say actually matters, right? And when you give them the opportunity to, and I lost my train of thought.
Okay.
But
That's
anyways,
we got to
yeah,
move
let's
on
move.
to the
But
next.
anyways.
Shaq, you know about this guy?
No, who's this guy? Oh, the Oasis guy, right?
It's on the sim. You should have done that.
No, the reason why I said that
He's the power lifter, dude.
most people don't know.
Dude, people
Who
are
is
very
this?
sensitive about that. But anyways, go ahead.
No, that's
No, how
the thing.
about we give him a name? See if he recognizes it. Have you heard of the
Let's
name?
not make a joke out of this.
No, I'm
bro.
not making a joke. I'm saying if he's. Well, hold on. This is not a joke.
We go power lifter.
Wait, hold on. This is not a joke,
You gotta-
bro.
that's bro.
No, hold on. Wait. I'm
What
saying
did I do?
I'm giving him a name. I'm saying if you're gonna recognize it. Have you heard of the name Yusuf al-Qaradawi?
No.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
So
I'm glad you said that.
No,
bro.
the reason why I brought it up because I knew Shaq would know him because that's
What?
not, those aren't the proud
Threw you
people.
under the bus.
You're not from the Middle East, bro.
Yeah.
You're not from the Gulf, the Qatar region. You 99%.
No, I mean, I don't know him.
Most people don't.
Yeah.
That's the thing. But
Yeah.
he recently passed away few days ago. What, 3 days ago?
Yeah.
2 days ago.
So he is one of the most world-renowned scholars.
Oh, okay.
And he is probably one of the what's often described as the activist scholar, the one who started basically many of the resistance movements across the Middle East and Pakistan and stuff
Or influenced, yeah.
or influenced them in many ways.
His-
Sorry,
the
not
thing
started
about-
them, but
yeah.
influenced them and gave them a lot of direction. He had a death sentence implemented on him by the Egyptian government, which led him to flee to Qatar and live there for the rest of his life. And incredibly influential person. And I wanted Sheikh Hamid to talk a little bit about him because I know many people are seeing in their social media feeds about people saying Inna Lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Shaykh Qardawi passed away and no one knows who he is, or at least
A lot of people from this generation have no
a
idea.
lot of the younger brothers don't know
They have no idea, yeah.
who he is. I only know him more because of my own Islamic activities
The 90s,
Mashallah.
the
with
90s,
with some of the
Mashallah, the shabab.
with the
Mashallah.
shababis,
from the 90s. Yeah.
from the 90s, namely Hizb ut-Tahrir and stuff. So otherwise I don't expect most people to know him. So
No, I don't expect
so
a lot
go
of
ahead.
Disney's to know him, yeah. No, so one thing is, look, one of the longest lives of people that we have. Look, he passed away at the age of 96, right? So somebody of his age has lived a very long life in the limelight, originally not wanting to be, obviously. But look, he's somebody that benefited from Hassan al-Banna, right? He goes a long way, dude. Somebody who's met Hassan al-Banna, somebody who's benefited from him, somebody who went through the Azhari curriculum of
Hassan
that time.
al-Banna is the founder of Ikhwan al-Muslimin,
Ikhwan al-Muslimin.
aka the Muslim Brotherhood.
Yes, Muslim Brotherhood. Yes, sir. Cross paths with Sayyid Qutb. Obviously has writings about Sayyid Qutb and where he could have done things possibly differently. Look, the best compendium ever written on zakat, like in human history, because we depend on people of the past to write and summarize things, right? The book of zakat that he has is the most dependent upon book of fiqh to summarize and understand fiqh on a basic, intermediate, and a very advanced level. Sheikh Muhammad Hassan Waldado, I just watched his interview this morning, who's also one of the giants of the Ummah, believes that Sheikh Yusuf al-Qardawi was a mujtahid as far as fiqh is concerned, right? Now, one thing you have to understand is the scholar who is a specialist in fiqh like him and is somebody who is looked up to by many groups who are involved in activism, people actually didn't understand why he was making certain type of fatwa that they didn't agree with. He's the first one that people, unfortunately they called his book, halal wal haram wal halal wal halal, right?
What?
It's because they didn't understand.
Because he was explain that he was saying
Yes.
because they said how he came up with certain fatwa that was like they were trying to make it sound like he was making everything halal.
Yeah. And you have to understand, people have to understand where he was coming from. Look, when somebody who's a jurist training at that, or have been trained at that level, and when I say that, I mean the deen of tasamuh, the deen of giving excuses, right? People didn't understand what he was trying to do by making things easier for them so they stay within the fold, right? They didn't realize that what was happening. So in an age of when people were really, really just gung-ho about their Islam and stuff like that in certain groups, they obviously hated that, right? Look, number one, we have to understand, I'm just telling you exactly what Shaykh Muhammad Hassan Wal-Dida was saying. He was saying, look, there's no human being that's free from, nobody has isma except for Rasulullah, right? Everybody that comes after that, they're inheritors or hoping to be inheritors of Rasulullah, right? And that's something we should all aspire to be as believers, right? In any capacity. But anyways, let's get back to Shaykh Yusuf al-Qardawi. His Kitab al-Jihad that he wrote, very, very few people have written that book. I think that book was probably released in 2007, 2008, maybe 2009, right? And it was a big deal in Egypt because
What was the significance of that book?
He was talking about the rules and regulations of jihad because throughout it was something he's been working on for a long time. But there's a lot of people who had a lot of confusion about what is considered jihad in our era. I think, wallahu alam, but from what I understand, that's one of the things that he tries to clarify by writing this book and just talking about what is jihad. Dude, it was very brave of him. A lot of people, now it's a taboo word. Nobody uses the word jihad, right? So it was a very brave move of him to have a book called Kitab al-Jihad.
Sister saying in the chat that he allowed suicide bombing. Is that true?
Very good. So the
Sister, that's a beautiful question.
It's a good accent, mashallah. Where you got it from? No, the sister is one thing is al-amaliyatul istishhadiyah is how we say it in the Arabic language, which means a martyrdom operation, right? Suicide bombing is not a word that Muslims use, number one, for what some individuals may do. As of right now, I'm not saying if I agree or disagree with him. So a martyrdom operation. So why did he say that this was allowed, if he did say it, right? The reason being is that when you take, let's just talk about Palestine, for instance. When you take money away from people, when you take their land away from them, you take all the weapons away from them, you've taken everything away from them, and settlers can come to your home and say, you have to leave within 48 hours, even though these families who may have 10 children, 15 children, whose families have lived there, inherited this land from Musa alayhi salam's time, and olive garden, but what
Olive tree.
No, but like the
Branch.
no, not
A grove.
the grove.
Yeah.
Groves. They've owned groves and groves of olives of land which has been seen from Musa alayhi salam's time, right? You take this away from them in 48 hours.
Yeah.
What defense mechanism do you think is actually going to occur, right? People are going to obviously resort to violence. You're putting them in that situation when you've taken everything away from them. So what he was actually referring to, and the brothers can correct me if I'm wrong, that's why I can't remember exact wording of his fatwa, but even though he retracted it later based on what he considered was rahmah, he was looking at a situation that Muslims in Palestine were in Dar al-Harb, right? They were living in a state of warfare. And when you're living in a state of warfare, he didn't say what people misconstrue in some, the extreme right in the 90s and in 2000s, what they were saying about Yusuf al-Qaradawi was that he was saying that it was okay for men to go into buses and blow up buses in the middle of a city when women and children and stuff were on there, right?
So
But he wasn't referring to that.
he wasn't referring
He
to
was
that.
referring to if you're in a state of war and for strategy, that you're in a place
By
where
the
you have to.
which by the way, suicide bombing or suicide kamikazes, it's been called so many different names in every society, but not suicide bombing the way that the Americans or the Western world has kind of framed it out to be. What is differentiating from the Islamic extremist group is the killing of innocent people.
Yeah.
And that, of course. But are you telling me when during the Civil War, the first rows of the people who are marching with their bayonets, when they're marching, they're going to live? No, that's a suicide
course.
mission that they're on.
Of course they are.
They're
They
going to
knew
be
they
the
were gonna
first
die.
ones who are going to be hit by the cannons.
Exactly.
Those are so in every single military, enterprise all across civilizations, there has been this form of like, hey, you are on a suicide mission.
It's a strategy,
You're not going to live.
Yeah. And by the way,
But
part of war.
what was different from at least the controversial aspect, at least that some groups took from this fatwa, that they would use it on innocent women and children.
Yes.
And that's where it became really hairy, where
Yeah.
they started bombing buses and killing, people left and right that,
Yeah.
didn't deserve
Because
to
they
be.
believe-
weren't armed combatants.
Yeah.
I think it's important to note that this wasn't a fatwa just made from his own mind. There's a precedence of certain of this for this in the Sirah, meaning where certain Sahabas went on wars or when they were dealing with people who locked themselves in the fortress or so forth and so on,
Jumped
right?
over the gate. They knew they were going to be killed.
Correct.
Yes.
And the idea was that if you knew that by doing this you're going to benefit the army, but it would almost surely result in your death. Basically, is that permissible? And this is the kind of context. However, you don't have to agree with any of this. I'm not even saying this is my opinion. What I'm saying though is that these are fiqh matters. Okay? And scholars are allowed to have fiqh differences. Some scholars will make outrageous things. They even shad opinions. That majority of ulama will mean very strange or gharib. It's what's the word? Strange, right? Strange,
Yeah.
right? But and a majority of the ulama will say no, we reject this, right? However, he's still a scholar,
Yeah.
and my issue is this: look, if you hated this guy's guts and you want and you think it's a blessing that Allah took his life, whatever, that's your business, right? If you think it's really that way, you feel that way deep down inside your heart, be thankful in your house. But to come onto social media and rejoice in the death of someone who said La ilaha illallah,
Yeah.
yet alone the Prophet ﷺ even stood up for non-Muslims
Yeah.
when they were burying them. But to rejoice, the man has died.
Yeah.
And the general ruling is when someone passes away, you leave what they've done.
Yeah.
Allah will judge at that point.
Yeah.
Now, you can argue he's a scholar, you have to refute him. But to mock him, at the end of the day, he's still a Muslim.
Yeah.
He's still someone who had knowledge.
Yeah.
He's still someone the Ummah benefited from in some way. And my point
People
is...
don't like to believe everyone benefited from it, bro.
And my
Everyone
point
did.
is also this, that let's say he was on complete batil. Let's say that's someone's opinion, right? And you want to correct that. Naturally, you'd want to influence you want to get or have influence over his followers, right? That would be the whole idea, because you're apparently upset at him because you're standing up for haqq.
Yeah.
Which is
Someone's
your
not
intention,
teaching
right?
the deen correctly.
So
Yes.
is it wise to mock or rejoice in his death publicly if you're trying to win these people over? Because to those people now, it makes them a martyr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you going to win them over?
Yeah.
Is this the wise thing to do? What benefit do you derive from this if you're trying to win the people over?
Yeah, man.
I think we're giving them too much power by even like talking about this kind of stuff. So
Yeah,
let's
I was
talk-
just saying where that
let's talk-
stemmed from.
yeah,
Like, there's some scholars contemporary of his that wrote books about him, referring to him in just very, very bad. I'm not going to say it. Very bad language in the title of their books. Because of his association with the Muslim Brotherhood, because they believed, some of them, that he was two-faced. He wasn't. He was actually Ash'ari, and he was whatever the case is, right? And talking about like making up things that he said that women don't have to dress like this, men don't have to do this. And look, a lot of times when a faqih says something, it's not exactly what you see in the face value. You have to
It
know
has
the
to be
context.
contextualized.
Yeah, and even
Yeah.
the fatwa that people claimed of, that he said about interest and mortgages and contemporary mortgages, and that was actually for somebody very specific in specific cases, right? Because in the Sharia, if you're in an emergency situation, in a very bad situation, which was once haram for you becomes halal for you, right? And look, thinking about the context of somebody, their only option is to live in the hood, and they're not going to be able to survive in the hood or get a mortgage, for instance, that's going to be something that's very livable and simple for them elsewhere. Then that, to him, he was saying that, look, especially Muslims in the West, that's a no-brainer for you. live in this type of situation instead of having to live in the hood where your daughter and your kids and no one could go outside and are afraid of being shot or whatever the case is. That's one scenario. There's many scenarios that were intended by that fatwa, but a lot of people misunderstood and mistook what he said, and they were very, very on the face value, very lahiri, and they just unleashed on him. When he's alive, I get it. And he had dude, you know something very, very cool about him? People that were very, very close to him, you know, they said something really awesome about him. They said that he would never get offended when people used to publish things about him and stuff like that. He used to actually hope that he wasn't the cause for them leaving Islam or having a bad understanding of Islam. And he would be okay with them, and that they're going to be, if they said something behind my back, they're already forgiven type stuff, right? So, but my main issue in all of this, since you brought this up, like, what is wrong with your heart the day that somebody dies that you're only unleashing bad upon them, right? That can only be satanic, dude. You know, that can only be satanic. It can't be anything else, right? And dude, some of the books that he's written, everybody they may not, well, I mean, they may not even know it, but they've benefited a lot indirectly from his writings of people who taught you, who taught them, who taught their students. You know what I'm saying? All the MSAs and the Islamic studies curriculums and all that, and you know, even a lot of these, you know, big Muslim companies in the Middle East, right? Like, think about his part. What actually caused me to do more research about him is, you know, Caribou Coffee, when it was still around. Caribou was still around, some of them, right? Mm-hmm. So he was actually partial investor, like the bank that he owned was partial investor in Caribou. When I found out about that, I was like, wait, what? And then I got introduced to all these different people who are kind of like his satellites, who do research for him in the West and like report back to him, tell him what trends are like and what things are like. And if you needed, like, give more insight in his fatwa you gave before and how it evolved and all that kind of stuff, you know? So I was really intrigued by that, but it was crazy how you get to know somebody based on going to a coffee shop because you like their green tea with jasmine. That's what I used to love there. Caribou Coffee's green tea with jasmine when they had it. And then some of the people on staff actually knew the bank, and some of the people that were like district managers knew him by name.
Wow.
Oh, that's crazy.
That's insane.
Right? But that involves you to get more interested in him, even though it was with you all the time, right? So that's why he has a special place in my heart. It's like the pathway to finding it wasn't going to Egypt. It wasn't going to that. It was based on where I was going to get a cup of tea. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I remember one of my first interactions, at least with you, when I was talking about him, I was like, oh, Sheikh Amr, do you remember this one fatwa that such and such fatwa? I can't remember what I was even complaining about. How could he have passed this? And then you were like so calm and collected, like you have to understand, like Shaykh Qardawi is like a mastermind and then you went through the details about how how he came up with that fatwa and the reasoning behind it, and then it just opened up like, oh man, I don't know crap, and you know.
Sheikh Muhammad Hassan Dado says that he's a mujtahid, bro.
Yeah, I mean that's I mean, I didn't even know that, but when you mentioned that, I was taken aback because that is serious. Like when you say street cred, like that's credibility. Because
of course,
and
he refers Sheikh Muhammad Hassan Dado. Look, he refers to, you know, Sheikh Yusuf al-Qardawi as like his teacher. Like, you know, like,
wow, that's insane.
That's insane.
For those who don't know who Sheikh Amr is talking about, Sheikh Muhammad Hassan Dado is probably one of the top 5 most knowledgeable scholars in the world, and
alive right now.
Just do a search on him. Do a search on him online. But
incredibly,
imagine his honor. He was able to lead Sheikh Yusuf Qardawi's janazah. He led the janazah. They have the video. You know, they shared the videos on it.
You know, Sheikh Qardawi had led the janazah of Abu al-Maududi, who's the founder of Jamaat Islami.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Subhanallah,
That was insane. I saw a picture of it online, and I was like, wow.
All I'm saying is that, generally speaking, among most students of knowledge and people of knowledge, he was respected.
Very much so.
And I think
he's considered an usuli,
at the very end of the day, forget him being a sheikh or a mujtahid or an alim, he was a Muslim.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
And Muslims can make mistakes.
Yeah.
And we know from the ayah in the Quran that you show shiddah to the kuffar and you show rahmah to the believers. Yeah. And so show rahmah to him. His family is suffering. He's a loss. Maybe some things we disagree with. Even I disagree with some things I read. But at the end of the day, I'm not a scholar, I'm not an alim. He knows something. He had an opinion on something. And we know from the hadith that if an alim makes something, if he gives a ruling, and it's correct, he'll get the 2 rewards:
Yeah.
one for the intention and one for the action.
Yes, sir.
And if he's incorrect, he gets one for the intention.
Yeah.
It's about إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ.
Yeah.
Right? So if his intention was good, which we see, we hope and we see that his intention was good, generally speaking. He had care for the ummah. He was involved with issues when a lot of scholars did not want to talk about issues.
Very
He
true.
talked about them.
His own people, like, dude, he grew up in a place which was very Shafi'i. But if you see his works, if you see his book of zakat, for instance, I'm not sure if it's translated or not. It might be. He brings all the other opinions, and he does tarjih, meaning that he says, okay, this is the best opinion to follow from this imam. And he didn't do this just because he just wanted to mix a whole bunch of madhahib together. You have to think about the context in which people are living in, what century they're living in, who's going to be reading this, what country is going to be benefiting from this. And the reason why I actually piggybacked off of you is one of the biggest misunderstandings that people have of him saying, this is crazy, al-Demokratiya al-Islamiyya, Islamic democracy, right? And people took that, and obviously a lot of it's in translation, like, oh, look, he believes in democracy. That's not actually what he was talking about. He was talking about the mode of Islam bringing about a ruler is more democratic than a democracy. It's actually a type of what, if you want to call it democracy, that's democracy at its best. Because you have a people who have a voice of actually bringing about somebody, or a cabinet. And the other way of electing a khalifa is selecting a cabinet of people that are going to elect a khalifa. So that's what actually they were referring to as Demokratiya al-Islamiyya. They're not saying that we're going to Islamicize democracy. That's one huge misconception that went on for like 15 or 20 years amongst Muslims.
I think there was a statement where people said where he was saying that that he puts the freedom of human rights above the Islamic Sharia. And I think at surface level, it's to a person who does not familiar with his work, it sounds very controversial, right? When you say that. But
If he did say that.
But
If-
understand.
yeah, I never read it. But
well,
if
I
he
saw
did.
the clip, but I think, I mean, I didn't see the entire lecture, right? But given the familiarity with his work, he doesn't separate the two.
Yeah. No, and he's not talking about the human rights of what the world considers human rights right now.
By Islam.
Or that,
Exactly.
again, that it's not, for him, the human rights he's speaking about does not override the Sharia.
Of course.
No.
And if you look at the Sharia, the aim is to protect the insan,
Of course it is.
right? It's one of the
It
aims
has
of the
everything
Sharia.
to do with the human being. What is it? The hifz of the aql, protecting the aql of the person, protecting
His
the
wealth,
wealth,
his
protecting his honor, protecting his deen, it's all about
Man,
the human
everything,
being.
right, yeah.
Everything about protection, which is embedded within our Sharia, is about the human being, right? So again, I'm glad you brought that part up. Look, when we talk about human rights, you should have a good opinion of your brother and say, oh, he's talking about what the human rights activists. You think he's basing his human people of this century of what they think of human rights as giving precedence over the Sharia? No. What he's trying to say is, and look, there's many scholars who've said this, even in English lectures and contemporarily. Look, if you are the best of human beings, you're a Muslim. If you're the best of human beings, Islam is going to ask you to be the best of human beings. If you're a Muslim, and this is not an opinion, this is a fact. If you're a Muslim and you practice Allah's deen the way it's supposed to, you are going to be the greatest of humanity. You're better than all other human beings. I don't care how that sounds to people. A Muslim, a believer, is better than any other human being. We don't disagree with that at all. So when we're talking about human rights and taking care of human beings, it is the most Islamic thing to do, by way of how Allah wants us to do it, right? So I think a lot of it is petty. I didn't even want to make it about this,
Awesome. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
anyways, man, just dude, when somebody passes away, man, don't start like
Yeah.
talking smack.
And that's the main
about
point, right? At the end of the day, he's your Muslim brother.
them. Yeah, dude.
Yeah. Guys, that's our show. Help us out on patreon.com/the Mad Mamluks, or /the Mad Mamluks. Make sure you click on the old like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And make sure you comment with your thoughts on today's episode, what you think about the woman king, or burning your
The
hijab,
woman thing.
or the religious police. Or maybe you want to talk about Shaq's beard.
Shakespeare.
Anything.
Yeah, I think Shakespeare's a good topic.
Shakespeare.
Actually-
Shakespeare. Shakespeare.
That's how we get our topics.
I saw a meme a long time ago about shaking something, and then a pear. They had the next window had a pear, and then you put together Shakespeare. So stupid.
He likes corny
Dad
humor like
jokes.
that.
No, dad jokes are hilarious, bro.
There are. Anyway, that's our show. We'll see y'all next time. Assalamu alaikum.